Before we get started, I just wanted to say, if you are very passionate about flower farmers fulfilling all of their orders with flowers grown right there on their flower farm, you might want to skip this video because I don't think it's quite for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Maple Leaf Barn. I'm Libby, and today we're going to be discussing kind of a tricky topic that's a little taboo in the farming community, and that is buying wholesale flowers to supplement your flower farm, specifically when it comes to Valentine's Day. I think it's really important to be transparent with you on our channel and just share with you what's going on with our small business and our flower farm, and just really share about a topic that typically no one likes to admit, and there's not a lot of information out there for you to read or to look at, just because it's something that's kind of looked down upon, and it's also something that people do, and it's definitely a reality. So I thought I would just share a little bit about my experience and tell you the ins and outs of what I have learned. There's mental models out there regarding flower farming that says you should only fulfill orders with things that you grow on your farm. But for us, it's just not possible. And so let's break down some of those reasons why it's not possible to 100% supply every single stem from our farm. First and foremost, we are a small business. We are also a flower farm. So we do supply almost every single thing from our farm from the months of March through October, with a very few exceptions. For example, roses. We do not grow roses on our farm. We just don't have the bandwidth to do that. And so there leaves us a couple different options, but one is buying wholesale flowers from either another farm or from a wholesale reseller. As of February 2024, we do not have a greenhouse. We do not have a high tunnel or a hoop house. So that really leaves us with 3 or 4 months of the year where we're not able to grow anything, with the exception perhaps of growing tulips indoors. And maybe we could try growing anemones or ranunculus inside, but in any case, there are very limited options for us from the months of November through March. So as a small business, we have to make that decision where we think, okay, well, we're missing several major holidays, and if we don't buy wholesale flowers to supplement our small business, then we're leaving sales on the table, right? So we're gonna not have any sales in November, December, January, or February if we don't buy wholesale flowers to help supplement our business. So that means if we didn't buy wholesale, there would be no Thanksgiving flowers, no Christmas flowers, no Christmas wreaths or greenery, and no Valentine's Day flowers. My business partner and I, my husband, and I sat down this summer when we decided to put together our list for what we wanted to order for tulips. And we decided we wanted to try growing indoor tulips. So we did buy 300 pre-chilled tulips that we had delivered in December, and we started rooting them and they started growing, and we have a series on doing our hydroponic tulips as a test for Valentine's Day. So if you haven't checked out that series, be sure to look at the description below. I'll include those links. But we didn't want to put all of our eggs in one basket, and we knew that there would probably be some problems with those tulips and we wouldn't have all 300 of them because this is our first time trying it. And so we decided we needed to go ahead and think about placing a wholesale order for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is the #1 floral event of the entire year worldwide. We can agree that Valentine's Day has been very over commercialized and pushed down everyone's throats for decades. But another important fact about Valentine's Day is that the majority of people who are purchasing Valentine's Day flowers are not your average bouquet purchaser. These people typically don't buy flowers any other time of the year, with the exception of perhaps Mother's Day, which is the second largest floral event of the year. So it's interesting because people who are purchasing flowers for Valentine's Day have been just pressured into thinking that it's all about red roses. And so the majority of folks who are purchasing flowers on Valentine's Day aren't really interested in the specialty types of florals that we might be able to provide with fancy tulips and really unique things like Iceland poppies or whatever. They are taking in what they have consumed from consumer America, which is red roses, baby breath, eucalyptus, all that kind of stuff. So when you're going to plan your Valentine's Day florals, it's kind of hard to not use red roses or roses in general. And for us, there's no way that we're going to have roses growing in Southwest Ohio, and we're also not a rose grower. So that just puts us kind of at a disadvantage no matter what if we were committed to only using flowers from our farm. Well, that brings up a thought that yes, I would like to eventually encourage people to get to the point where they are purchasing flowers that are not roses and that are more seasonal based on where they are living geographically. And for us, that'd be awesome if one day we can encourage our clientele to move towards more tulips or other spring flowers instead of those traditional consumer red roses. But as of right now, that's still what the majority of people are looking for. And so I decided to go ahead and make an order for some wholesale flowers for this Valentine's Day to supplement those tulips that I have been growing hydroponically, because I knew I just wouldn't have enough to fulfill orders if it was just straight tulips. And I wanted to broaden my marketing base. I wanted to really reach new people that I've never met before. And that includes people who are interested in red roses. So I went ahead and placed a wholesale order. And here are a couple things that I learned. Number one, you have to place your wholesale order at the very end of December or by the latest, the first week in January. You have to make that commitment at the very beginning of the year for Valentine's Day, which is really hard for a small business owner because I don't know how many people are going to purchase my flowers 2 months in advance. And so that's a really interesting thing that no one talks about. And since no one talks about buying wholesale flowers as a flower farmer, you really aren't taught any of this information unless you've gone to floristry school or something, which most of the flower farmers out there have not. Secondly, you are shocked by the fact that you have to have this enormous minimum for flower purchasing. So you can't just buy 50 roses or 10 snapdragons. You have to buy a minimum of 250 roses. That was the lowest minimum I could get away with, and at least from where I purchased the wholesale flowers, they just have these enormous requirements for ordering. That's also a lesson learned with ordering wholesale. You may end up with more flowers than you expected or that you really need. When it's time to sell things, you really have to hustle and you have to get those flowers out so that they're purchased and you're not in the hole. And thirdly, and maybe most importantly, the price of flowers per stem during the months of January and February are 2 to 3 times more expensive because of the worldwide demand on flowers. If you've ever gone to the store or a florist shop or Costco or whatever, and you've seen all these flowers and you just feel like they're so much more expensive for Valentine's Day, that's because they are. I know how much flowers are to grow, and it's really painful to purchase those flowers at a significantly inflated price. And then if you're going to resell those flowers to your customers, then you have this huge ethical question of having to increase the price of the bouquet just to cover your costs. And that's a big question to consider when you're thinking about buying wholesale flowers for Valentine's Day. The price of eucalyptus is up. The price of snapdragons is up. For an example, a bunch of 10 stems of snapdragons Usually wholesale will get you between $15 and $18 depending on your wholesaler. And now in the month of February, it costs about $30 to $35 for a bunch of 10 stems. That is absolutely mind-boggling. I have over 300 plants of snapdragons growing right now from seed, and it's just remarkable to me that the consumer America, or even worldwide, will charge so much for plants that I grow during the season. It's very hard for me to wrap my head around that. But that's the reality of buying wholesale flowers in the month of January and February. Just a little tip, if you have a wedding client who has a wedding date in January or February, you're going to have to increase your prices just to cover the cost of that increase due to Valentine's Day, because it's across the board. It's not just, oh, these flowers are for Valentine's Day. No, it's every single type of flower and every single occasion. So just keep that in mind if you have an event coming up in February. That brings me to the question of, is it worth it? And in the effort of being transparent, I thought I would share with you exactly what happened with my Valentine's Day orders. I was really just hoping to make $1,000 or something dollars, just an kind of a small Valentine's Day push, so I could pay for our compost order that's coming up in March. Well, wow, was I wrong about that? I am almost embarrassed to share this with you, but I feel like it's really helpful. And again, even if you fail at something, it's a lesson learned and you won't make that mistake again. And in hopes to help you, if you're starting off as a small business or a florist or a flower shop, I think it's just important to hear it from someone else that this is reality and it's okay. I had a few different offerings on our website. I had kind of a smaller wrapped bouquet, a larger wrapped bouquet, and then that larger wrapped bouquet but not wrapped and in a vessel. So I had a $50 option, a $100 option, and just a little over $100 for the one with the vessel. And I thought that would be a decently priced option because I don't know that in our area people are really going to be spending more than $100, and $50 would even be kind of a lift, I think. So I wanted them to be able to enjoy a multitude of different blooms, including red roses, carnations, pinky carnations, our homegrown tulips that are red and pink and white, and then some greenery. I thought I had priced everything really well and I hadn't overextended. But when I went to pick up my wholesale order, I was just floored. I knew that it was the price that it was, but I just didn't realize how it would correlate. And I picked up my order and I spent almost $600 on the roses and the greenery alone. That was a huge hit because what I came to realize is that I had only sold about half of my roses and the rest of them I haven't even sold yet. So I have too much inventory and I had lower prices. Now I'm hoping to make that up a little bit because I have a few Valentine's events and I'm hoping that I can get rid of that inventory and make a profit off of those extra roses. But if I include all of the costs that I've put out, my outputs, and then calculating my inputs, so all my sales that I've made, even though I made a really healthy amount of sales I was really excited about, my profit, you guys, I really didn't do this right. So just be aware that when you're buying wholesale flowers, you have to increase your prices 2 to 3 times. And it really hurts. And if you're not willing to do that because you think it's unethical or it just hurts you, you're not going to make a lot of money. You probably will just barely skate by with making just a hair over what your costs have been. I didn't quite do this right, and I thought I would share because no one really talks about it, so you never really know what to expect. And So I'm not making a ton on Valentine's Day, but at the same time, my business got a lot of traffic and we got a lot of new customers. That was really good. We also have just had the opportunity to get our name out to a lot more people than we expected. And then these two Valentine's events have put us in front of even more people. And even though they may have not purchased anything, we were able to get a few different events lined up for potentially in the summer and just connections with other people in the community, which is a huge deal. So it's kind of hit or miss, I feel like, when you purchase wholesale flowers. It can either go really well if you're trying to just supplement something for a summer wedding that you need 50 roses or 100 roses, but you know you're going to be able to use them all. But for Valentine's Day, the prices are just so inflated that it's very difficult to make a profit if you're not willing to just rake people over the coals for prices. So because I know what my profit margins are with this Valentine's Day ordeal, I was really curious, do other flower farms in my area or even in just the general flower farming across the board, do people do this? And you guys, they do, because I've looked on their websites. I follow really fabulous flower farmers that I highly respect, even in other states, and they absolutely cannot grow roses or carnations in Ohio in January or February. Okay, it just doesn't happen, even if you have a greenhouse. So I know that there are other people, even in Texas and in other states that I follow, friends and other flower farmers. They do purchase wholesale flowers, and I'm not sure where everyone gets their wholesale flowers from. There are options that are a little bit more maybe eco-friendly. There's lots of options to buy wholesale flowers from California, so at least those flowers are grown in the United States. The truth is, flower farmers do purchase wholesale flowers, whether it's greenery for wreath making, because look, do you see a bunch of flower farmers with a bunch of evergreens on their yards? No. They're not getting evergreen bunches from their farms. They're getting evergreens from other people's farms. And so I think it's just a fact. In some seasons, we just can't grow anything. That being said, I think that this whole experience has really taught me that I really want to grow my own flowers. I think they're better quality, longer lasting, and they're more cost efficient for my business and for my clients. So even though I had a little bit of a learning curve with growing tulips inside, I think for 2025, I will definitely be experimenting and expanding our tulip production over the winter so that we can have our own tulips and just try to communicate to our clientele that red roses are not where it's at all the time. Let's branch out and expand and just grow our palette, if you will. So that's where I'm hoping we transition towards, is having a better profit margin by actually growing our own things for Valentine's Day and just encouraging people to branch away from the eucalyptus and the roses and just enjoy some really fancy tulips and possibly some ranunculus. But I think where wholesale does really help is when you have an event and you just can't supply everything from your farm for that event because of the mass quantity, but you include that price increase for the resale aspect, and that way you're still making a profit with your business and you are not feeling a hit when it comes to all the profit margins. I will say that my space down here smells so good because of all these 250 roses, and I do have a heart for roses. I enjoy them, but I just don't get to grow them right now. Maybe one day when I don't have little people taking up all my energy. So I'm curious, has anyone else purchased wholesale, or are you thinking about purchasing wholesale? What was your experience? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to see who else out there has thought about supplementing your flower farm with a few other things from outside resources. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.